Well, welcome to Found in Focus. This week I had the privilege of speaking with Canadian furniture mogul Richard Magnussen. Now, Richard started out his father started out a very small furniture company in a chicken coop of all places. And it grew slowly but steadily over the years. Richard had the awesome privilege as a young man to sweep the floors as they were building this furniture. And then eventually in 1970, at his 20s, Richard took over this family business. And he shares so honestly in his book, Go Big, which is actually a bold title for such a humble man. He shares very humbly and honestly the lessons he learned in growing this Canadian business, this furniture business. It's called Magnussen Home. You might recognize the name, and it's actually a global furniture company supplying furniture all over the world. But he talks about lessons that he's learned as in life, in work, and in family. And the verse that came to mind as I listened to Richard share his story with Colossians 3:23, it says this: whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. If you're really honest, I think a lot of us work to please our boss. And maybe that's your main motivation. You just want to get that paycheck and get out and do a good job for your boss. But sometimes we are the boss, or sometimes we don't have the greatest boss. So who do you work for then? Well, this verse reminds us that no matter what your job is, no matter what you're doing in your life, do it for God. Bosses come and go, and people come and go, and you want to work hard. You want to work at it with all your heart, but your motivation has to be to please the Lord, because sometimes you can't please people. Sometimes it's tough to please the boss. Paul was writing this verse to the church in Colossae, and he was challenging them to live their everyday lives, to go about work and relationships in a way that pleases God. And sometimes we think, well, we can go to church or do ministry to please God. But what about your job? What about your family? Richard shares how he learned some of the most humbling lessons, both in business, but especially at home. And he shares stories of, having to apologize to his kids, having to make things right with other businesses, and that he really humbled himself many years ago and not decided to give to the Lord first, to make this business please the Lord first. And I really admire his story. I'd love for you to check it out on the Found podcast. But what are you doing today? Colossians 3:23 says, wherever you are, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters, or not just for men. So work for the Lord today with all your heart. Be encouraged, and check out the Found podcast with Richard Magnussen.